Are we live?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to call a special meeting of Deseronto Council to order at 6:02 on Wednesday, January 20th. May I get an adoption, please, of the agenda?
Councillor Hudson.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hudson. May I have a seconder, please?
Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Any objections? I'm hearing none. Carried. Thank you. Any disclosure of interest tonight from the agenda? I'm hearing none. Carried. Okay, the purpose of tonight's agenda is to give council an overview of the operational budget first draft for 2021. Going back to our previous budget meeting, we had a capital introduction just before the holidays. This is now an operational introduction. Because everyone just received their packages today, I'm going to be asking the CAO and the Deputy Treasurer to go over some of the highlights of the operation budgets. If we have any questions, we can ask the CAO. The next goal is I've asked the CAO to combine a capital budget with an operational budget, and then we will be bringing in the department heads, and they will have 10 minutes to speak on behalf of their budgets moving forward. I've also asked the CAO for a timeline of completion for the 21 budget from staff perspective. Once I receive that, we'll be able to update council of our budgeting plans moving forward. With that being said, I would like to ask the CAO if she could take over the meeting from here and start our budget discussions.
Okay, so adding on what you've just said, I think maybe we just schedule the every other as suggested at the last meeting. If everybody's okay with going forward with every other Wednesday, I think we can schedule for at least the next few and then see where we're at.
So is that all right with council then? Would we like to continue with the every other Wednesday meetings to accommodate the 2021 budget? If so, what I'll do is I'll have the CAO send out maybe some sort of meeting placement holders for the next, Christine, what do you think, next month, say February?
Sure.
Okay. Is that all right with council then? We'll do alternating Wednesdays for budget discussions. I'm hearing no objection.
Your Honor, if I could ask a question of Christine. Through you, Your Honor, to Christine. When you say every other, Christine, does that mean like there would be, say, a meeting the first Wednesday of the month, then council the second Wednesday of the month, then another meeting the third? So every Wednesday there would be a meeting of either council or the budget and so on?
I believe that's what was suggested at the last meeting. I'm okay with that unless you want to double up, but then there's time constraints there too, and it's a lot to absorb to have a council meeting and a budget meeting in the same night. So it's
yeah,
up.
No, I'm fine. If I just wanted to get that clear in my head. If it's every Wednesday, I'm fine with that.
Does anybody else from council have any questions with respects to the Wednesday meetings? So thank you very much, Councillor Clark, for the clarification for all involved. So what's being proposed is we will meet on our normal council meetings of the second and fourth Wednesday, but we're also going to include budgetary meetings on the first and third Wednesday, just until completion. Is everyone satisfied with that? I'm hearing no objections. So that will be the plan. Thank you.
Okay, so moving forward from there, obviously I don't have all the departments. I think I have most of them, but there's a couple of committee ones that I'm looking for clarification from on. I did include the recreation one, but I think there's some work to do on that one. And I think it was just a preliminary preliminarily put in front of the committee, and staff got the kind of nod to go ahead and build something, but it needs some work for sure. So with that said, I've put forward what I think should please council, but we can have the discussion when we get to that point. And at this point, I'm just going to assume that transit will be the 20,000 we normally do. They certainly have enough funding to cover that, and that it can be a discussion at a later date when I actually have some feedback from the committee on that. There's been a few requests and from council over the year, and some pre-budget, yes, we'd like to do that next year things, and I'll just go through page by page. I realize you haven't had a chance to look at this much, but please ask as we're going. This won't be the only kick at the can you have, and you certainly have my phone number and email if there's any questions in between meetings as well. So that being said, it's a little difficult because we're in COVID, and it's so hard to do estimates right now because of the unknowns. I think we've done okay in 2020. We fared okay through the COVID. We got a little bit of funding that helped us out. We're in good shape as far as I can tell, without having all the year-end invoices and last minute stuff in. Usually it takes us till the end of February to get all those. So please keep that in mind when you're looking at the actuals, that they may not reflect the actuals for 2020 because a lot of invoices trickle in the next month or so and more. And I will be working on that, on getting that clear picture of where we are at as of year end. I believe currently we have a surplus of a little bit, and I hopefully will stay that way. I don't want to give numbers right now because there's no way of knowing until we have all the stuff in. So pushing forward, for council agreed to a 1.4 or 1.2 increase. I believe it was 1.04 increase for staff for the cost of living. So that's how we've built the budget just going forward, each department head. So, and that includes council. So there's a little bit of an increase there. Nothing really to change here. I don't know if there's going to be conventions. That's something we can have a discussion about. Sorry, I guess it was a 1.1% increase. But the conventions are a different story. With COVID, there's no way of knowing if this. I guess I'm looking for feedback from council. Does council wish to build money in there for conventions in case we're able to go, or should we reduce this?
Christine, do we have any surplus left over from the 2021 budget with respects to conventions that weren't used?
Well, I think this budget reflects that certainly.
Yes.
We did use a little bit, so there's a little bit of a surplus there.
It would be nice to be able to accommodate conventions if they were to happen, but not through 2021 taxation. If we can use the taxation that we applied in 2020 and a budgetary line item that did not get used and have it carry over to 2021, that might be something we could consider as a council. Anybody else have a thought on that?
Mayor?
Yes, Deputy?
Thank you. I think that's a good solution to the problem. Also, there could be other training that council wishes to take outside of conventions that could enhance their training, and there could be other training opportunities for staff as well. So I wouldn't want to eradicate those educational line items completely. Thank you.
So with that being said, do we want to call it conventions and training and then allocate? Right now there's $7,000 allocated with a bit of surplus carried over from 2020. I think she's asking for a little bit of direction on that point.
Mayor, if I can, AMO is live, not in person this year. Most of the stuff you learn at AMO is the networking, the trade show, the great training that you get in the breakout sessions. From my feedback last year from people who went, it wasn't the same. So I will not be going to AMO, but that does not rule out the fact that I might want to attend another virtual convention that I normally couldn't take because, hey, it's online. So I let maybe reducing that a couple of thousand might be a good first step here.
Thank
Just
you.
a suggestion.
Definitely something for consideration. Christine, during this conversation, I know this is the first time many of council has seen this. Is this the type of dialogue that you're looking for tonight, Christine?
Absolutely, because I'll need to make changes for the next one. I need a little bit of direction so that there's a meaningful report in front of council for the next budget meeting.
Considering we had the ability to participate in only 1/4 last year of any sort of conventions in the traditional way, we used $2,469. I think that it would be prudent and probably beneficial to all, and to the deputy mayor's point, that if we did budget this year, but I think we could budget for 5,000 opposed to the 7,000 that's there. That should cover some conventions and training and still double what we spent from 2020.
Okay, done. 5,000 is in there for now, and this is not only the first kick at the can. If council wants to give consideration to it and readdress this at the next meeting, that's absolutely the way to go.
Thank you.
All right. So I don't know if there's anything else in this budget that I mean, we gave consideration to purchasing some hardware for council to use, particularly if we're going to continue Zoom meetings and, you know, move it a step further and do the have the visual on as well. Is there any consideration that you would like to put in those expenses? There's 1,500 in there now.
That's represented under council miscellaneous expense.
That's correct.
Thank you. And based on our previous estimates, you'll have to refresh my memory. 1,500 would outfit those on council that would need a device from our previous quotes. Obviously, 1,800 was the budget.
1,800 was the budget. Yeah. Now there's other stuff in there, not just the. I think council decided to allocate, was it 300 to each council member to purchase their own devices?
That's correct. So what you've done in there is you've given a provision of $300 per council member to purchase a device that they could have then reimbursed for the purpose of doing virtual meetings. Correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Any objection from council on that point, or are we going to let the 1,500 stay? We'll go with that. A little bit a point for clarification, Christine. Grants unspecified at 2,000. We used 375. What traditionally falls under grants unspecified?
That would be stuff like the wreaths for the Remembrance Day, which didn't really happen this year. That wasn't something we did. Sometimes there's advertisements that council has traditionally done or donations they've made. Nothing specific, just an amount that council maybe can use for that type of thing.
Possibly this could be an area we could come back and look at based on traditional history. Like say I think 2019 would probably be more of a year that we could take a look at and say, listen, this is what we've traditionally used over the last 5 years for grants unspecified. If we're averaging 1,500, let's budget 1,500 and put the extra 500 towards other municipal initiatives. Would be my thought.
Other stuff that may go in there is purchasing flowers for.
In memory of type things.
That's right.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else from council have any comments on this page before the CEO continues? Hearing none? Thank you. Christine?
Okay, so this one's a big one. There's some stuff in here. And I noticed that I did leave the capital for the ICIP grant in there. That was an error. I meant to pull that out, but it got missed. So, but that 100,000 is offset by a capital expenditure for the building if we are successful in receiving that grant in spring.
Christine, can you update our screen, please? Your screen?
Oh, sorry, I thought I did. There,
Thank you.
we good?
Yeah.
The next item is we just received notification that we got $1,600 towards COVID expenditures for operational hardships for the town. So that's what that grant money is there. I'm struggling with the summer student grant. So last year we applied for summer student grant and couldn't hire students, but were successful with the funding. And then at the end of the year, they came back and they said, we're extending it for, through the rest of the season. And Maura and I were able to set it up so that the arena students that we hired when we reopened the arena would be covered under that funding. And now that's come to a standstill. So I'm not exactly sure, and maybe within the next few weeks I'll have more clarity on this. For now, I've left this $5,000 in here in the hopes that we can use funding for a student somewhere. Again, just in there as a placeholder for now. So going forward, we'll get more information as to whether that will actually happen. The rest of it is pretty standard. I know if you look at the interest and penalties on taxation, we did waive them for 4 months this year during the pandemic. Right now, we are currently collecting. I've put in an amount that I think may. Again, it's a gamble. It's a guess. How long is the lockdown going to be? How long are people going to be struggling? Is it something council is going to wish to go back and revisit, depending on how long the pandemic goes on? So for now, this is what I've decided to estimate for now. The same with the bank interest. We expected to receive a lot more interest when we set the budget in 2020, and then of course everything went downhill from there. So what do you put in there? The market seems to be bouncing back, but is it bouncing back enough to give us enough interest? Maybe I need to do a little more research on that. This seems to be a safe amount, but perhaps Maura and I could give the bank a call and just see what their expectations are. But nobody has a crystal ball. So it's going to be a tough year for this. The $5,000 contribution from reserves. We put 5,000 in last year, and essentially this is for server and computer items is what I feel seems to need a little bit of cushioning sometimes. We did find out that we now have to update the server software to accommodate to running the software. We're running a 2012 Windows version, and we have to update to 2019 to accommodate most programs that will be switching to that by the end of the year, including the new accounting software. So I added that into the budget. It's about $5,000 to update the server software, and I've pulled the 5,000 out of the reserve that we put in last year to cover that. the actual server hardware was updated this year, and that's been covered under 2020 expenditures. So,
Christine, may I ask for a point of clarification?
sure.
Okay, so in the revenue accounts, I see an ICP grant, and then I see a COVID grant. I also see transfers from transit. Should they not be bracketed, and should that not indicate revenue coming in opposed to what I'm looking at here? I don't see brackets around those. To me, they look like expenses more so than
No,
recuperation.
these are all revenues. They're under the revenue heading. I don't have RAC, and if council wishes me to change, I don't think I can change it on the system software. It
Yeah.
doesn't bracket it. It just groups the revenues with the revenues and the expenditures and then the expenditures. And they're all positive numbers.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, the 89 is coming in from transit.
Where do I see that applied in the overall?
Where is it?
Okay, I see it. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, I answered my question. Thank you.
Okay. Continuing on to the expenditures. Just for information, there is 6,500 included in there for a summer student if we, under salaries, if we manage to score one this year. Again, maybe in the coming weeks, we'll know prior to the budget being set, and we can reduce that accordingly if we're not going to be successful. What else have we got? That's different. So the actual computer software and service contract, as you can see, we were over budget on our expenditures with that. There were a few surprises. The Zoom, we didn't expect to have to pay for Zoom licensing, which, you know, between that and some souping up the Adobe a little bit to be able to do the agendas is about $1,000 of that. We had a software update for the water and sewer, but it caused some problems with the software we use in the office to do the billing, and there was a $2,500 bill for services to accommodate the new water and sewer software. So that's in there. I think what else I had written down. Oh, at the budget time, we were sure that we were going to have the county looking after our IT services, and I under budgeted because there was going to be some savings there. So I probably under budgeted about $10,000 for that, because I expected the county to be doing. Now we do know, and we have confirmation that they have secured the staff they need, and they'll be taking over shortly, I believe. I've been told by Larry at the county. So I feel a little more comfortable having the reduction in this budget line item this year. I think that, oh yeah, there was some cyber attack security that we had to implement that we didn't expect as well. Just there's been a lot of breaches of municipal software. So to be on the safe side, we did what Baytech recommended, and it was a little more, it was a cost that we weren't expecting, but we spent it because it was shaving off some risk there. So what else have we got? Computer hardware, that 7,500 is the $5,000 for the Windows Server update, And I do believe one of our computers, the reception computer, should be updated this year. It's getting a little bit old and slow on Gail, and we need her to continue to work and do her customer service as well as she does. So I do believe we need to replace that computer this year. The 6150, we can discuss. It's part of the CAO report. It's in there for now, and we can have that discussion when we get to that part of the agenda. I don't think there's anything else that's an anomaly in here. Any questions on this one or further clarification?
Anybody from council have any questions before we move on to the next portion? As the CEO mentioned, this is not our first kick at the can. This is just simply an introduction. I'm hearing none, Christine, so please proceed.
We'll move on. So the fire department has submitted, in speaking with the chief, I don't think there's anything too crazy in here. The vehicle maintenance is up, but that's to put tires on one of the trucks. Apparently there's only so long you can keep tires according to standards, and there's one of the trucks have all the tires replaced, and it's about $4,000 to do that. So that's what that is. The education we discussed because they budgeted $6 last year and only spent $1,600, but he's assured me that the training will be completed this year, and he's allocated asked for the $8,000 to do that. I don't know if there's anything else in here. But is there anything else jumping out at council? I think it's pretty straightforward. There's also some new recruits that have to be, accommodated in here as well. So, okay. No questions. Moving forward. Policing. I believe I gave this information to council already. We're up, of course, on the policing. Looks like $15,314 is the increase. As we all know, that's about a percentage increase. I looked through the report, made sure all our household totals and everything were correct, and everything seems to be okay. So I'm not sure I can tackle anything that way. Quinte Conservation. So they've proposed a budget. I believe I put it in front of council in, I think it was maybe October, November. But in addition to that, there was a recent request for possibly, if there's a grant obtained, another $1,500 from Desert Toronto for the shoreline management plan. And we also committed to another $1,000 for the two shoreline planting projects. And
that's the naturalization that's going to happen in April?
Yes.
Thank you.
I had sent an email to set up a meeting, and then it sort of got put by the wayside because they decided not to do it in the fall. So I need to reconnect with Maya and have a meeting with the public works manager, and I think the deputy mayor would like to take part in that. So I need to set that up soon so that we can have a discussion about that.
Please, thank you.
Christine, if I could just give you the heads up, this is something to expect in the next couple of weeks. The funding that the provincial government has provided for source water protection is coming to an end. And consequently, the source water protection services provided by QC, which are statutory and required, they will be devolved down to the municipality. We're looking at probably a cost between $8,000 and $10,000 for Deseronto. The thing with this is, because of the fact that it is protecting our drinking water system, I asked Amy Dickens the question at the meeting and got a confirmation that we're able to put that fee onto our water and sewer budget because it is directly related to water and sewer, and only water and sewer customers would benefit from source water protection. So I just want to give you the heads up that that's coming this year. They're just currently working out the details, and I would not be surprised in the next 2 to 4 meetings they reach out for a delegation. Thank you.
Deputy, do you know why it's coming to an end?
I wish I did. It's just the provincial government's ability to support the program. They got it up and running. All the plans are in place.
And I can speak to that a little bit too.
Perfect.
And I'm surprised we haven't heard from this sooner, Deputy Mayor, because if I'm not mistaken, that funding ran out last year, or maybe even the year before.
I think the conservation area has been eating the cost, and due to their constraints and their directions from their ministry to focus on core services, they're going to have to put that into a cost recovery.
Yeah, and they are our resource. They're trained in doing the forget what the specific term was that we had to set up, and you know, I dealt with this in Center Hastings as well, and yeah, the funding was coming to an end, and really all we were using for at that point was paying the conservation area authority to do the inspections. So yeah, that's a shame that the province is downloading that, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Did you think it was going to be in a 2021 budget?
I'm sure it is. The executive director and Amy talked at the last meeting in December about payment models. There were several proposed. It's complicated because there are some municipalities that actually don't benefit from the plan. They don't have a water or wastewater system, but they have risks in their boundaries that, and they're going to be paying through the nose. So it's going to be controversial. I've been in contact actually with Amy today just to double check our numbers. And either way they do it, it's going to be controversial. But I'd like to put out, it will be pennies on the water bills if we go that route, or very limited on our budget. It's $10,000 to guarantee that our water is safe and secure, which I think makes or breaks the community more than anything.
Deputy Mayor, if the Conservation Authority has any intention of lobbying the government to continue with the subsidy, I'm sure you've got a municipality here that would help support that. Just throwing that in your ear.
Quinte Conservation, through Conservation Ontario, and all our municipalities have been very supportive on the work that conservation areas are doing and authorities are doing right now, Dan, and we'll continue. Absolutely. And if Amy or Brad come down from Quinte Conservation, I'm sure they'd be very pleased to hear the support from you and the chair and the council here for their good work, because they are excellent at what they do.
Okay, so now we're on to building permits, and this is the board decided that rather than the 10,000, building is booming right now, so they're giving 15, budgeting to give 15 back to each member municipality for the 2021. So there's a $5,000 increase to that budget. Sorry, increase to the revenue in that budget.
Sorry, Christine?
That's a revenue.
Okay, where is that in the big picture of things? Where do we see that? At the end?
Where do you see it?
The revenue coming in. It comes in at the end?
No, the revenue is right there. It's on the sheet that's page 7.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, I guess if you look at the bottom line of the survey, if there's a negative amount, it's a cost to the taxpayers. And the positive amount in the surplus deficit means that it's revenue over expenditures. Is that clearer?
Thank you.
Okay. Our bylaw, we're currently in the process as a BISB group board is currently in the process of doing the hiring. I believe the interviews were on Monday, and they will be hiring a bylaw enforcement officer to cover the municipalities, and it will be handled the same way the building inspection board is handled. And I do believe there's some savings there for us. So this is the budget I've presented for building bylaw enforcement. Next is the crossing guards. I didn't change too much on this. Last year, of course, there was some anomalies that happened with COVID. I just left this budget the same for this year. Animal control, we will still be using the same Frontenac, and these are the costs. We were without them for a couple months at the beginning because the expectation was that the commissionaires were going to be performing this task. However, they're not, so we had to go back to Frontenac, and so that's why this budget is stayed the same as was budgeted last year. CEMC, again, no change. We do have a new CEMC, but I've just left the budget the same there, and I will have discussions with Chris to see if there's any proposed items he'd like to put forth to council maybe at the next meeting, but I don't expect so. I think we just need to make sure we're being compliant, and he needs some training. He needs to take the BEM course. He's registered for them all, and I do believe the county is offering the BEM for free. Leanne has set that up in Zoom format, and I think he signed up for a IMS 200 that he got, maybe not free, but maybe it was a couple $100 to do the training. So not too much in here that needs to be. Hopefully we'll get to do an actual training exercise this year. I'm tired of the actual one we've been doing. The roads department operations. I think the expectation is maybe not as much sweeping is going to happen this year. There's an accumulated amount of overload time, so there needs to be some holidays, and when people take holidays, then there's not, or use up their load time, then the work isn't, maybe there's not enough for the sweeper for doing as much sweeping as they did this year. That may change, but he wanted to be conservative just in case they didn't get as much done as they did last year. I don't know if there's anything that's jumping out too far in here. The budget's about the same as it was last year overall. We know insurance costs have gone up about 10%, so that's that increase. I don't think anything else is and as I said, some of the invoices aren't in for 2020, so these actuals may not be up to date yet. but it looks not too bad. That's year over year. I don't know if there's any questions. This is a big one, but perhaps you can save your questions for when the public works manager is here. There's nothing crazy I can speak to on here. So again, the sand and salt, I know Joe said that there was one more bill that he was trying to get the salt people to submit so that Maura can pay it, and it reflects in 2020. So hydro street lighting, just basically the same as last year. I'm not sure what the capital expense. I guess it's maybe if they have to replace something, or water and sewer. This one of the big ones, and again, probably it's best if Rob speaks to this budget when we have department heads here. And speaking with them, there wasn't anything, I don't think, that was. I do have a few notes here, but overall, there's no increase or anything he's expecting. It's all within the parameters of the increase that we just put on. So for 2021, he's not proposing any increases. So this budget was a little wonky again as well, because we gave the bag tag, free bag tag. However, we have increased the price of the bag tag, so I'm not sure if that will compensate for the difference, but I've budgeted what I think it should be. Just left the revenue at 80,000, because as I said, we may be giving free ones out for this month, but it was a few months, and I just don't know how long we're going to continue the free bags this time. I've also had concerns from our contractor that he'd like to be included in those kinds of decisions next time when we're deciding to do the free bags. He feels that people put out more bags and there's complications, and they at the end of the year, when Gail phoned them to say council's decided to do the extra bag, they said, oh, well, we'd like to charge you for that now because it costs us more money. So I asked him for something in writing to provide council. I got something from him last week, but it's not asking for anything specific. It's not asking to be compensated. He's just explaining his position that they may ask for compensation. So we may have to look at this. I'm expecting to get a little more information before we set the budget to, and of course we don't know if we're going to be extending how long we're extending the free bags.
Christine, do we not pay for tonnage as well as pickup?
We do, but
so I don't understand where that concern is being raised from.
I know, and I didn't either.
It makes no sense.
But they're saying they have to put an extra truck on, and when they bid on the job, it was for a certain level of service, and this is a change in service.
I would like to see some serious numbers before we
Me
advise
too.
anything.
You and me both, Dan.
Yeah. Because the math, it doesn't make sense considering the contract that we have with them. The statement in itself, it doesn't compute. I will
make sure I include that correspondence on the next budget meeting, and we can have a discussion on how we want to approach that. But as far as, so then, are we going to be able to do spring cleanup this year? I don't know. It's in there for now as last year. There's also $12,000 for Household Hazardous Waste Day. perhaps we want to do that every other year. That's a discussion for council, but it's in there for now. But it's certainly one of those areas that will generate a good budget discussion maybe at the next meeting, when council's had time to absorb all this. Cemetery board, as far as I know, there's been no change to that. I just kept it the same as last year. Joe's budget for the parks, no change. In fact, looks like it's even a little bit less. I do believe the washrooms are completed. They're not open up yet because there's been no need to open them up. We haven't been able to open them up during the COVID, but he did get the work completed on them. So provided everything goes well, we'll be able to use them in the spring or summer or sometime. There may be more stuff council would like to do. I've been approached about using the canteen. I do believe it has a little bit of work. Again, this is a bigger discussion that council will want to have before setting the budget as the direction they would like to go in the way of renting that out again or renovating it. I don't know.
May I just say, I'm very excited to hear about the bathrooms. Something I've been talking about for 2 years, so 2 thumbs up for me.
We'd also like to see cameras put up to
Yes, of course.
stop the
Yeah,
madness,
keep them
because
nice.
once you open them up again, you take a risk that they're going to get damaged again. So it would be nice if we had something in place to.
Yeah,
Damage.
and I know we're not the only municipality who faces that, so it's
Oh,
just
heavens,
one
no.
one step at a time.
Okay. Recreation. I don't know if Amber wants to speak to this one. This was just given me today based on what was put in front of the committee yesterday. I did note that the committee really didn't discuss Canada Day, and I know at the last meeting there was hope that maybe we could do fireworks, so I amended that line item. Family Day, you know, council kind of canceled, so there'll be no expenditures for that. And the parade again, hopefully, and baseball, hopefully, and all of those things. There's just no way of knowing. So I don't have much to say on this one. I don't know. There's a lot of decisions to be made between the committee and council before we can nail this one down. So I will just let this one sit for now. And
What's driving the $22,600 miscellaneous recreation cost?
so up at the top, there's the age-friendly community grant that was applied for in the revenues for 8,600.
Yes.
So 10,000 of that 22,000 is that. There are the banners that Patrick is hoping to get funding for of $10,000. And that 10,000 for the banners is sitting in there. So that's 20 of that. The balance of it is the virtual fall festival, I do believe. And oh no, the joint run, the 1,300. Yes, the 1,300 for that, and the virtual fall festival of 1,000. So I guess the offsetting revenues to that is all of it except $400.
So we're expecting that line item to be a net negative.
With except the $400 that
Correct.
part
Thank
of
you.
it. Okay.
Thank you.
Again, this one's still got some work to do, but here it is laid out, and I'm sure there'll be more discussion on this. The arena, this was a really hard one. And as I looked at things, I just thought, really, we're cutting things in half. We don't have a January to March season for this year. We hope to have open up in September or October as usual and have a season next year. So really it's half the revenue, half, not quite half the expenditures, but I modified it based on that. That was my rationale for what I've presented here. Oh, I see I left the capital in this one too. Still hoping to get to get that funding as well, which will require, so that's the line item, the federal funding and the contribution from reserves on this one is the still waiting to hear on this ICIP recreation, and that'll be the cost. Yeah, again, just cut things in half or cut them accordingly based on reduced staff. And I don't know, it's a guess because we just don't know when we're going to be open again for the gym and for being able to host events in the banquet hall and so on and so forth. So this is best guess. Council can consider this, and we can have maybe a better discussion, and you can provide thoughts at the next meeting to changes you'd like to see, or if you think that, you know, half the year isn't what I should be looking at. But that was my rationale. The library, I do believe the budget I received is the same as last year. Planning, this one is just, we received rezoning applications, and this was the money that was spent for those planning applications. There will be some expenses. I may even have to increase this one. Typically in the planning applications, the costs of legal or engineering or any of that stuff goes back to the developer. However, if we have our engineer review his engineer or their engineer plans, we do need to pay our engineer for the peer review. So that's what that 1296 was for some site plan for Green Street. Then the planning, the economic development, I guess this one is called, and really it encompasses our communications and our newsletters and our website maintenance, even in here, because it was part of the revitalized Main Street revitalization grant. The $2,500 under physical improvements is the flowers we put in the planters. So I'm not sure that's the right place, and maybe that should now be moved over to parks. But this is where it was last year, so this is where I left it. The 3,500 is the bulk mail outs and MyFM communication. The 6,200 includes the website and the cost of putting up the Christmas decorations. We have to hire someone with a truck to put up the stars and stuff. And the $500 budget item is flags to replace the Canada flag, the provincial flag, and our flag a couple times a year. And that's it. I don't have anything from transit yet. So I know it's a lot to absorb. If there's any questions, as I said, please give me a call or email me, or save your questions to the next meeting when the department head's here. I'm good with any of that.
This is Amber. Sorry, I haven't been commenting much. I'm just taking notes. But it does make sense, like you just said, to move. I think I don't know if everybody agrees, but to move the flowers to the different spot than economic development.
Everhardis, I would agree with that, Councillor Hudson.
We're to put it in parks?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were beautiful, by the way, but I think that makes more sense.
Yeah, it
Sure.
was only because the development grant was here and I used it to put the flowers in next year, but this year we'll have to pay the money for them out of revenue.
No, Christine, I think that was a great suggestion. So I just wanted to.
Thank you very much, CAO, for the presentation of documentation 2 through to 56, which are preliminary operation budgets. I'd like to move on. Actually, can I please get a motion, please, to receive the preliminary budget?
Everhardis, Your
Thank you very
Worship,
much,
the
Dominic.
question.
Yes, sir.
Just so we can digest everything in the subsequent notes, can we receive all of it and just bring it all back to our next meeting?
Absolutely. I think that's a perfect motion,
So-
sir. I will take that as a motion. So
Thank you.
that will be the CAO report. That'll be the briefing note and the sampling consultant services. Everything under 5.1, correct, sir?
Correct, sir.
Thank you very much. I will take that motion. Do I have a seconder for said motion?
I would second that, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. Any discussion? Hearing none. Carried. I do want to bring everyone's attention to the CAO report when you have an opportunity to take a look at it. I think there's a lot of nice stuff in there. I think that's going to address a lot of council's concerns. So take a look at that. We'll circle back. Thank you very much. With that being said, we're at a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council. Before we do that, does anybody on council have any questions before I move on to asking for the bylaw to be confirmed? I'm hearing none. Thank you. With that being said, may I please have a confirming bylaw read 20-1-21, please, for the special meeting of council?
Thank you. Mayor, I'll read bylaw number 8-21, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special meeting held on the 20th day of January 2021. And I move that bylaw be read a first, second, and third and come into force this day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy. May I have a seconder, please?
Councillor Smith,
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Any objection? I'm hearing none. Carried. Thank you very much, council. Thank you very much, staff, for participating in tonight's special meeting. I think it gives everybody a lot to digest. It gives us a starting point, and the CAO will send out meeting invites with respects to the schedule of meetings coming up for the month of February pertaining to finance and administration and budget discussions. With that being said, I will take a motion for adjournment tonight.
Everhardis, so moved.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Do I have a seconder for said motion?
Councillor Smith,
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Any objection? Hearing none? Carried, and have a great night. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
good night.